Okay, I think I'm finally ready. I haven't used this tool before, so. All
Okay,
right.
perfect. So you can start.
All right, great. Thank you. So I'm going to cover today um, specific Matomo uses for health and medical data. Just quickly about me. Hold on a second here. About me. So I run a digital consultancy based in the US called Pharma Forward, and we focus almost entirely on digital analytics for healthcare, and that includes pharmaceutical industry, for medical devices and other hospitals. So we focus a lot on taking digital data from and developing insights around that. I've got about 20 years of experience in digital marketing, and I've worked extensively with Matomo over the last year, and become a huge proponent and fan. And a big part of my work has been transferring clients from Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics, especially for websites that exist outside the US, to Matomo platform. And I have to tell you, I've had a lot of fantastic wins and learned a great deal. And I'm going to share today some what I think are some best practices and strategies for leveraging Matomo for healthcare-based websites. And I say this with a deep understanding that the requirements for healthcare advertising and healthcare marketing and data collection are significantly different in the U.S. and the rest of the world. So as I present, keep in mind that I'm thinking globally, but most of our work tends to be in the U.S. But in a lot of cases, work that we've done, the U.S. is definitely moving more toward a GDPR-based solution, which makes Matomo, very useful for platform, especially as more healthcare companies, prioritize data compliance and privacy. So I think, one thing you may not, some people don't realize is the size of the digital health market. Just some recent analytics and measurements, over 1.3 billion people worldwide engage with some sort of digital health platform, primarily on the web, but also platforms such as telemedicine, smartwatches, and all this data tends to be connected to the internet in one way or another. So this market of collecting digital data is tremendous. In the US alone, the US digital health market revenue is expected to hit $47 billion this year. And you can see this predictions for the market. And from a digital advertising perspective, and this may seem a little foreign to users outside the US, because I know there's not a lot of healthcare advertising in the EU. Healthcare and pharmaceutical is actually the second largest digital industry. Only, I think only retail spends more money online for digital marketing and digital ads than the pharmaceutical industry in the US. So as you can imagine, it's a very large industry with tremendous amounts of data being captured. I think this is a great opportunity for a rethink of how digital data is captured and processed, because as even more data becomes available, we're seeing increased privacy and compliance and regulation. So that's just it. But it's a tremendous market. I don't think people realize the amount of spend that we see and the amount of investment that these pharmaceuticals companies put into digital. So just a level setting is just the size of this market. I think people are always surprised when they realize just how large this market is in the US. So from a Matomo standpoint, some solutions that we've come up with this in the last couple of years of working with Matomo, and things I wanted to cover as sort of baseline areas for really optimizing and unlocking Matomo is number one, privacy protection. People find Matomo to be very useful in the fact that we have a lot of controls over the privacy and compliance preferences, and we can control that on the website, on a website level. And I'm going to talk a little bit about best practices for configuring healthcare websites in Matomo to make sure that they're highly compliant. The next piece is full data ownership. Unleashing Matomo, there's a lot of strength in just the amount of data ownership that you have. This is tremendous when compared to, say, Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics, where these platforms are owning the data. Being able to collect all the data, and then more so in the healthcare area, is using the Matomo API to pull data into the data warehouses to combine it with other data sources has proven to be extremely powerful. And then also on connected with that is also just to talk about how useful it is to have the kind of accurate insights that we're able to pull from Matomo, especially when in connection with the data warehouse, to find real data insights that we probably would not have been able to find using other analytics platforms. So from a privacy standpoint, critical elements are ensuring HIPAA and GDPR compliance. HIPAA, if you're not familiar, is the Healthcare Information Privacy Act, and that's just it's not so much on a website. It's not so much of a GDPR, but it handles it focuses on the way that any kind of medical data is handled, and there are a significant number of requirements and processes that companies that handle any sort of personal medical data need to follow. And there's certain levels of authentication, security, and I think Matomo is essentially one of the only analytics platforms that can meet some of those HIPAA requirements. Also, from a data anonymization standpoint, very critical for healthcare websites, as basically protecting patient information is incredibly important for reducing liability and handling risk. Allowing users to have full control over what data they accept is important from consent. And when we set up Matomo websites, we have a whole checklist that we've created to enable Matomo websites out of the box when being deployed, that they are following best practices for health, for data privacy. And these are some of the ones that we always recommend. And again, one of the tremendous ways that you can kind of unleash Matomo is just having this ability to have such fine-grained control over all the preferences. For one, we always turn on IP and anonymization. I have a hard time with that word, but we mask it to at least the last two octets of the IP. We, having a data retention policy and 12 months or less is critical for healthcare websites. Consent management, a lot of, I would say that most companies that I work with have their own, consent management platform, their own CMP. Tends to be OneTrust is very popular in the US. But if not, we can use the consent banner to ensure that we are requiring explicit consent. Very important to respect browser do not track signals in the US. Increasingly, whether it's iOS browsers, Safari or Chrome, there's more preferences built in to those browsers to have do not track, and so we have to respect those. I think this is one setting that I often see Matomo tends to be overlooked. But I think it's critical, as if we've seen cases where when do not track was disabled, that we were still collecting Matomo data even when users opted out of cookies. So that's a very important setting. Customizable data deletion always should be enabled. Auditable logs, if there ever is a data breach or that we need to have logs. And this is again one of our favorite, features of Matomo is being able to have logs in case there are any issues. Data access control, very important also to disable heat maps and session recordings. I love this feature. But when enabled, there's a possibility that you can basically observe users entering personal information or interacting with information. So I believe that disable heat maps is on by default, but turning that off. Anonymized user ID, also very important. And then just making sure that there's the content security policy is fully configured. In healthcare data, a data breach for a hospital or any sort of company that is capturing medical information could be the end. It could result in the company going out of business. So any sort of safeguards that we can put into place to avoid data breaches is essential. And again, this is one of the reasons that being able to use Matomo and having that control of the data is very incredibly useful. Any questions or thoughts? I feel like, good. Thank you. Again, and these are some of the advantages we see, similar to privacy, of having a full data ownership and being able to have full patient confidentiality. Also being able to have full compliance with US and EU privacy regulations. I mentioned data breaches as being a big concern and a serious concern that all sort of medical and healthcare companies deal with. And then again, having that greater flexibility of data management. And one of the things that in working with some large pharmaceutical companies, the ability to take the data from Matomo and pipe it into our enterprise databases, and being able to use that data alongside CRM data that we have, sales data in some cases, really gives us another layer of insight around really looking to look at the full journeys that our patients take when they're evaluating care, or with physicians when they're evaluating new treatments. So that's really been a tremendous asset in Matomo, and having that full data ownership. And some real world examples that to carry forward is, it's like things that we've done. We work with a research institution that offers specific portals for clinical trial participants, and we were able to set up Matomo, self-hosted in that case, to pull all this data down and allow it to use that data to help us find new patients for the trials. And then also, as I mentioned, working with a large provider to integrate Matomo data into corporate data warehouses. The access to the API, and unlike Google Analytics, where being able to not have to go through BigQuery or have to rely on Google Cloud, being able to create that connection, it makes it a very powerful solution. And again, getting a full comprehensive view of patient behavior, it really broken down into various dimensions, including the kinds of symptoms they have, or where they're located, or their any sort of demographics, and being able to map that against their usage of digital tools, really it makes an incredibly powerful data warehouse for doing insights. So, and then finally, I would say the third piece that for unleashing it is really, how do you leverage Matomo data in the healthcare sphere for accurate and useful insights? And from a healthcare, this data, digital data provides tons of great insights. The way people search for symptoms, the way they move their journey across different digital properties, provides really in very intensive and useful data that we can use to help understand how to get patients on care faster, how to get them diagnosed faster. There's a tremendous amount of opportunity there. And also with operational efficiency, if with Matomo, where the data is almost real time to see trends and spikes. For one of my clients in the US had a big problem with one of their products, and they had to take it off the market. And we were able to, using a lot of this data to sort of see the impact of visits to the website based on this news, and we're able to adjust the website based on it. And then again, understanding how patients use healthcare data without violating their privacy. So aggregated metrics on the types of the types of symptoms that lead patients to search for different types of physicians. This is all data. This is all insights that we can glean from data that's captured in Matomo, especially when combined with other data that we capture from other tools. And so some sort of things that we've been able to do is using Matomo data to define patient journey stages. And we're able to see, for example, and in this case is a patient visiting a website for a pharmaceutical product. We can understand, we can look at all the goals and the actions in Matomo, and then we can sort of bucket them into different sections of the patient journey, kind of taking what's already available in Matomo and kind of sort of modifying it to create our own journeys. And then from there, we can bucket patients into these different areas. And for patients, we look at awareness, patients coming to websites or to digital information centers to understand, and we can sort of bucket the actions and the KPIs and move them into this consideration area where they're actually evaluating to see if this sort of type of treatment would be would be useful for them or fits their needs, and then moving them into an activation phase. So we're able to score and set actions. So it makes it really powerful so we can understand the types of content, the types of marketing campaigns that sort of drive people through these different stages of the funnel and kind of get them from, I would say, that awareness funnel, that awareness stage to the activation phase. And a lot of this data is really just kind of pulling events and actions and sort of putting them into different buckets through some modeling. And we use a lot of these visualizations to show how, which one of these consideration actions is driving the most engagement, and sort of which step, which sort of different actions within the funnel do they take that leads them to an activation funnel faster. So this is really great data for not just evaluating and understanding this user information, but helping you to sort of almost real time optimize your content, and in more cases start to personalize these websites or these these portals or whatnot to get people down the funnel. One other area that we're able to do, and this, I apologize, this is a little hard to find, is to look at is to sort of set up markers for key accounts. So in the if there are, we can look at specific organizations visiting that have logged into different portals, and based on that we can really understand what those specific organizations are doing. This is very important in sort of the the healthcare insurance area. So we can, not only can we see that these organizations are visiting, but through our data warehouse we can connect these organizations to the Matomo data. So not only can we see that they're visiting, but we can also reveal what sort of actions that these specific organizations took on the website, what kind of KPIs they followed, and then based on that, we can feed this data out to the broader field team, who can use this insight to follow up and customize and cultivate conversations with people at these organizations. Again, it's hard to, a lot of this data kind of combines data from, like, say, Salesforce or Viva, and through unique ID identifiers, we can join it with Matomo data. So not only can we see that these organizations are visiting, but we can also sort of see specific actions they're taking. So it's a great sort of ability to track a lot of this, kind of cross-platform engagement. And then finally, a lot of this Matomo data has been really helpful for us for doing more geo-targeted engagement. Certainly with different types of conditions, there are considerations based on geography and demographics. So in some cases, we can use some of that modeled, whether it's geographic information, device level information, to help us model a lot of this work. And these key, you can sort of see in the screenshot, the key audience types that we're highlighting here are actually Matomo segments that we built in that thing, and then sort of pulled into our other data sources. So so in the world of healthcare, I think it's the real win for us in the Matomo has been taking the Matomo data and joining it up with other sorts of data sources to kind of create a really brilliant, smart view of all these sort of insights that we can take to help sort of improve marketing, communication materials, and even sort of help tailor the communications between these companies and their patients. Yeah, that's it. So I would say, like, the healthcare is really untapped, is a fast growing, high potential market. And I think Matomo is if you're working with clients in the healthcare area, Matomo is a really great solution. And I think a little bit, there's also in general, and this is more US based. I saw last year in 2024 was the first year where I felt a lot of companies that I work with really started to understand requirements and around compliance and data privacy. As you know, in the US, the importance in the we don't have as many watchdog agencies in the as you do have in the EU. So there's been, but just in the last year or so, it's become a lot more prominent. And it just, with some of the issues around Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics as well, I think there's a lot of opportunity to to leverage Matomo as a solution. And one of the other amazing things about Matomo that I've felt when I've been sort of kind of proposing this to my clients is that we can stand up Matomo instances from legacy GA data, which is a tremendous, because I think one concern that a lot of clients have when switching platforms is, am I going to lose all my historical data? And so being able to kind of work through the APIs to start your setup off is a tremendous starting point. But again, I think the US, especially with sort of the growing privacy concerns, and I think we hear these concerns not only from these companies, but more actual patients are more concerned about how their data is shared. But I think there's a lot of opportunity here, and I think it makes a lot of sense as a unified data strategy. And I for one hope to continue to work with this. And if you have any questions, you can contact me on LinkedIn or through here. But I think that's kind of it. And I feel like if there's any questions, just let me know. So.
Actually, there is no questions, but even from InnoCraft, just thanks you for mentioning data retention time in Matomo. When you delete all data, you can sleep well at night, confident that it's truly deleted.
Yes.
But there is no other question at the time.
Okay, good.
So we will see if in a few seconds somebody asks something, but in the meantime, I will thank you for the talk. You are our last speaker for the day, quite a long day, but we are now at the end. So thank you so much for that. I think that you could stay in a few more minutes for the final talk of greetings, all cheers, all speakers, all attendees. We had today with Ronan Chardonnot in room 1. But thank you so much. And as I told you at the beginning, the replay will be available in a few days or weeks, or maybe a month. It depends of the energy we had. But
when you get to it. Okay, I'll stay for another minute. So, but I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for arranging this. So,
thank you so much.